Local Decision 2022 continues. The countdown to Election Day, November 8th, is on. And Scott Rosochacki joins us now here in studio. Blaine City Council hopeful, running out of Ward 1. Scott, good to talk to you, and we appreciate your time. And first and foremost, it's your first foray into politics. How's it going so far?
Well, thank you for having me here, first off, and it's going pretty well. I've been talking to lots of people, kind of getting to know the people of Blaine in a more deeper context, you know, their wants, their needs, and it's very interesting, things I wouldn't have thought of initially, or things that I guess don't make the big news. But I think that's really great, being able to actually get to know the people of Blaine so that I can understand how to help them the best.
So what have you learned? What are the hot button issues that people are telling you when you do the meet and greets and the knocking and all that stuff with boots on the ground?
So the biggest thing that a lot of people talk about is, in this ward specifically, they feel forgotten. They feel like no one is standing up for them. And that's common to almost every single door that I've knocked. And so these people feel like the city council has just left them behind. And I think one of the biggest things through that is we haven't had a lot of advocates. We haven't had a lot of people standing up and talking about the hard issues. It's just kind of, hey, we're the city council, we're going to do this one thing here. Whereas what I like to do is I like to be very preventative in things. So being able to go talk to people. If something hits the city council, like the apartments was a huge contentious issue recently, I found out about that because I went and I talked to the citizens there in that area, and they mentioned to me how they were considering moving out or leaving Blaine because they didn't feel listened to. So listening to the people is the primary thing for me.
So what have you said in response when they say we feel invisible? How can you change that narrative?
Oh, it's a really good question. So changing that narrative actually means showing up to the city council and not just being quiet. If some issue gets brought up, let's say maybe another apartment building goes up in an area, the moment I hear about that, I know we send out notifications to the people if they want to come and talk, but we can go out and we can actually go door to door, because not everyone is able to come to these city council meetings. Not everyone can find a babysitter, not everyone can get off of work. So if we go out into the community, if we talk to these people door to door, we can actually get a greater respect for what the people think and how we're supposed to act as representatives.
I feel like in these polarized times we now live in politically, that if you have the label career politician, that's not necessarily good. So does it work in your favor being a political newbie, somebody coming in with a different set of ideas?
Well, I mean, we do get a lot of questions at the doors that definitely deal with polarizing topics. And one of the things that I really love and I really stress to people is that this is a nonpartisan race. It's something that I absolutely love. I don't have to care about culture wars or big ideas from one side to the other. I can focus on solutions. Solutions are what I'm here for. It's what I do for a living right now. And being able to offer those solutions is something that I'm striving to do. And politically, like, there are people that have disagreed with me. Like, we've disagreed on every single issue for a couple of doors, but they have said that they're going to vote for me because they respect the fact that I have integrity, that I'm going to be nonpartisan, that I'm going to represent Blaine, and I'm not going to be quiet and let them be bowled over for some type of developer or someone with a lot more money than they would have.
Is there an assumption when you knock on somebody's door that you have a macro view of things like, say, gun control or abortion, when really you're dealing with the micro things? As you said, it's nonpartisan and it's just strictly drilling down and helping out Blaine in your ward, right?
Yes. And so when issues like that get brought up to me, I very respectfully say, these are not issues that I deal with, but I can give you phone numbers or contact information for people that do. Because while I may not deal with those issues, I am the first representative for this ward, these people. And so they would expect me to have that contact information if they have those issues. Regardless of my leaning on either side, I need to provide that information to them so that they can voice their opinions, because this is a representative democracy. We need to be able to get the people their voice and their opinions in the political atmosphere.
The one thing there is universal agreement on is fixing Minnesota State Highway 65. Give me your views on that. And you have a background in fundraising and saving money. I know you were in the Navy. You
Yes.
saved them $20 million, according to your website. How can we get this road up to speed?
So that is difficult, and it's taken many years. Like there was the Pell study that was completed, I believe, within the past 5-ish years. And one of the big things that I'm starting to understand is Blaine, over the course of its history, took a very piecemeal approach to it. So Highway 65 is becoming more and more difficult to alter because now we've had a lot of businesses now pushed to the side of Highway 65. So if we want to expand, do overpasses, it's going to disproportionately affect those businesses. So that kind of harms the idea of willing to expand Highway 65 for that. There are the mobile home parks on one side, so if we expand Highway 65 on that side, we could be harming that community. So in my mind, we need to take a more holistic approach rather than a piecemeal approach, because if we don't do that, eventually we are going to harm someone. And that's not what we should do as representatives. We should look at that larger picture so that we don't have to make these hard decisions down the line. We could actually make it easier and better for the community.
So when you were in the Navy, you were a submarine electrician. It sounds like a rather complicated job. I'm sure you had to have a skill set. Can that translate to being on the city council in any way?
Oh, absolutely. Submarine electrician, what we do is we actually work on the nuclear power plant on board. And I read tech manuals. Like, that is just what I did. I read tech manuals to understand the process on how things worked. And going into city council, you have to kind of understand the legalese or have to be able to read these documents to understand. And so that can translate very well. You have to coordinate with a whole bunch of divisions on a submarine to be able to get jobs done to ensure that you're not harming another division or you're not stopping someone's work. So that coordination translates very, very well. And the other thing is we have to understand how to operate in an emergency. So I know how to remain calm in an emergency and make an informed, correct decision. The other big thing that we love to talk about in the nuclear community is that success teaches us nothing, only failure teaches. And so I can learn from our past, like what we have done correctly, what we have done wrong, and we can learn from that. We can build on that to build Blaine for the better in the future.
Jobs. How do you bring more jobs to Blaine? What kind of jobs are we talking about?
So jobs in Blaine, like in Ward 1 specifically, we are kind of packed in tight here, or as some people have called it, packed in like sardines. Two of the biggest things on my mind is I want to bring union representation back to Blaine, because Ward 1 specifically has the highest density of anywhere in Blaine of union members. So if we bring back union representation, we can allow them to have the ability to bid on jobs properly. We can allow them to stay in this community that they love, that they chose to be in here, and we can bring in the jobs for roads, for piping, all these things that need updating here in Blaine. So we're actually bringing those jobs here to Blaine. Another big thing is the Northtown property. That has been a very high point of contention. I know one of the ideas is to put in high-rise apartment buildings there. It's something people in those communities were unaware of because they didn't get to speak to the city council or someone didn't come into the area. So they're very concerned. If we can talk to that community wants to bring in things like local coffee shops. They want to bring in breweries. And one of my ideas, since everyone loves to call Ward 1 Old Blaine, fine, let's make it rustic Blaine. Let's make it historic Blaine. Bring in some old brick buildings there, brick oven pizzas, things like that. People would love to get out in the community, get to know each other better, and you can bring those jobs to that community.
So have that throwback feel.
Yes.
Almost like turning back the clock in a simpler time, right?
Yes.
And you being a Navy person, you also have visions of a VA center. Am I right about that?
Yes, you are. It's a VA satellite hall. And I spoke about it previously in my interview and also in the League of Women Voters debate. If we bring that here, we can actually help out our veteran population. Blaine does have a really high density of veteran population. One of the biggest populations is the Vietnam veteran population. And as we kind of know and we study from history, that population kind of got ignored. They got pushed to the side. So if we bring in this VA satellite hall here, we can allow them to have the resources to get health care, to get mental health care, to be able to help out that vulnerable population. And so I know Blaine has a VFW hall. We have the wonderful park in front of City Hall, but those are very great, but they're not the resources that veterans need to get better, to get back into the community.
The growth has been explosive in Blaine, up to 70,000 residents now. How do you foresee future growth? Do you want it to start, rather slowly and, work with balance? How do you envision that?
Ooh, it's a good question. So one of the biggest things that I see right now in Blaine is that while we are growing, and growing is always a great thing, we're not taking care of that base infrastructure. We have pipelines that burst. We have water mains that burst. We have aging systems. So if we rapidly expand, those aging systems are going to have strain. It's going to cost the taxpayers more. And just by bringing in new businesses, that's not going to cover it. And also, if we update our infrastructure, other businesses from outside are going to see that we take care of our community, that we take care of our own. So they're going to be more interested in investing into the community. So that also has the ability to bring more jobs, to bring more tax revenue here, instead of having an over-reliance on property taxes like we do right now for our budgets.
When you look at the issues facing Blaine that you want to tackle, does anything seem daunting? Like, wow, how is this going to happen? How are we going to resolve this? Because even if you have the right idea, you need to build bridges in the council so you can get more voices on board.
Absolutely. So every single person has their own personal issues, things that they see as a priority. I've talked with people that want to create a humane ordinance for pet shops in this area, that's a huge priority for them, and we can take care of that. Other people see crime rising, or they see, again, homeless, which has risen in the 2010 census, and up till now, it has risen about 1.1%. We do have to invest in our police force because it is growing. Our city is growing, and they don't have the ability to go to all the calls. A thing that I really like to do is I like to attack problems indirectly. If we do things like, let's say, reinvest into reentry programs from the prison system, since there are a lot of people that reoffend. If we invest in that, we can actually stop stressing the police force going to multiple calls and having these same people go over. And instead, we can actually help out the community as in a whole, use some money that we saved to invest in education, to invest in healthcare, to invest in our seniors, to invest in anything that we deem as the community as a priority.
Did you have an epiphany at some point where you woke up and said, I love my Navy background and I've done a lot, but now I want to get into politics? Did a lightning bolt hit you out of the sky?
No, a lightning bolt did not hit me out of the sky, although that would be pretty funny. But one of the big things for me is when I left, and I know a decent amount of veterans feel this, we feel kind of an emptiness inside. Our community is gone, and we're looking for another way to get involved, another way to help people. And that's what I've generally noticed is when we're looking for somewhere to help or somewhere to get involved, we don't actually have those resources. Another reason I want to bring the Veterans Affairs Center here. So that was kind of me. I was looking for a way to get involved, a way to help people, kind of use my knowledge and my background and the best way to help people. And this is where I fell.
Well, maybe you can be a voice for the vets. We want to thank you for stopping by. I'm sure our viewers will thank you for your service in the Navy. And good luck on Election Day.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. He's Scott Rosochacki, running for City Council in Blaine, Ward 1. This is Local Decision 2022.